Welcome back to High Vibe. This is our podcast, our opportunity to help you explore and live your best life, your most authentic life, your most aligned life, which is why we call it High Vibe. I'm Derek Gant, one of your co-hosts, and today we are going to dive into a subject matter that is very important in any relationship, no matter if it's the beginning, the middle, or as you continue to maintain. And that is transparency.
Welcome, beautiful souls. I am your co-host, Coach Dawn L. Johnson, and welcome back to the High Vibe community. And we are grateful for your energy and your presence today. Yes, just like Derek said, we're going to talk about transparency, something that we truly feel is cornerstone to any relationship being viable and thriving in today's world. So as we have come together in partnership, these are some of the stories and some of the things that we have navigated in our relationship. And we thought, you know what? We know other couples out there, other humans that are navigating partnerships, especially the newness of any relationship, especially when you're coming in hot and you're coming in high vibing. So transparency, when to bring it up, when to start it, why, what are the things that we should share in the beginning of a budding romance, a budding partnership. Where do we start? And whether you are in the early stages of your relationship or, been going through it for a little bit, transparency is definitely something that triggers that vulnerable space within all of us. But, it's really important as we are all on this self-mastery journey to figure out how we can come together and speak these truths to who we are, because we all come into a space as a whole human. When do we start to share those maybe very sensitive parts of ourselves because we're all afraid of being judged? What do you think, Derek?
Yeah, let's get into it. It's like you have that first date. I wouldn't advise you going, how many kids you want?
Well, we were past that.
Yeah,
So
thank God we were past that one.
Mm.
But so today we're going to dive into about 6 different segments of transparency in a relationship. And Coach Dawn and I are both entrepreneurs, as she mentioned, and we are talking about this from our relationship, but we're also talking about it from a business relationship. So take that into account, because these principles, these thoughts, these ideas are universal from individual to business. And the very first thing that we're going to jump into is past relationships. I've heard about people that go on that first date and one of the people can't stop talking about their ex, or their past relationships, or the other person is wondering, well, how many partners or people has this person been with, and what's going on with that. So the question really becomes, when do you bring up past relationships, and how far do you go, if you need to go anywhere at all? So Coach Dawn, why don't you tell us, I know you have a very strong, unusual opinion about this. When I say unusual, I mean it is not usual. It's not weird. It's not strange. It's not usual. So tell us what you believe.
For me, I don't give a, I
Ooh,
don't care. So I only care about the human that is sitting in front of me, present and engaged in where they are right now in their journey. The past is over. Okay. And if we've gotten to the space of some sort of attraction and heart connectedness, I truly feel that meeting a person exactly where they are right now, where they are in their open heartedness, where they are in what they're ready to embrace in the relationship. And for me, I want that human. I want to really sit with this human and go, I'm unpacking, I'm observing your body language. I'm listening to the language that you use. I'm listening to, I'm watching, how you react to some of the things that I may say. I'm feeling the energy. Is he being triggered maybe by my confidence and how I'm showing up in this space? So, but I do understand for the majority of humans, humanine, that it's comparison is the thief of joy. Truly believe that. We've heard that saying a million times. And bringing up, the past and how you've navigated, in those relationships, sure, can there be some gems that might go, oh yeah, let me make a mental note of that. And a lot of people do that red flag, yellow flag, green flag, scenarios. But I really want to know, who are you today? Because I
Yeah,
truly
that's good.
believe whoever you were with that last person, you don't necessarily have to be that person with me.
And
I'm
you get
giving
to
off different
transform.
energy, the whole thing.
Yeah, you get to transform at will, right? And
Hmm.
and the whole point is that if you're not growing or changing, you're going the other way. You're losing the battle. You're digressing. So, I told you all it was an unusual perspective. My opinion is that when you are entering a new relationship, you want to do your best to try to, I don't want to say go with the flow, but kind of go with it, right? Show up as your best self
Hmm.
and present your best self. And we're going to talk about some of the things Coach Dawn mentioned later, because some people show up as their best self and they got to switch a little bit later because they're not really the best selves. But
Correct.
for what we're talking about on past relationships, I personally believe that some of that's going to come up, right? I mean, somebody's going to ask, maybe not the details, and I really don't think you should discuss details, but it's inevitable for some people that are curious. Why did you break up with your last relationship? How long was your last relationship? They kind of get a parameter of if you're a player or if, you have some intent or if you are a serious person or you're just trying to hit it and quit it, so it gives you some. So I think some discussion is cool. I think going with a normal, especially in the beginning of normal, then you have so many more things that you need to learn before you start talking about past relationships. However, I will caveat and say that if you have a past relationship that was crazy or could put me in danger, right? You got some dude, some joker following you, spying on you, and he's doing it. You might want to say, I got a crazy ex, just a heads up. Or if you're going into an environment, you're going to a party or something, and one of your exes is there. I personally don't want to be all up in some dude's face, dapping him up and blah, blah, blah. And he was an asshole to you, right? 'Cause I'm on your team at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So, you might not know that going to the event, but once you get there, you might go, you might want to avoid that dude. I'll tell you why later and keep it moving. But other than that, I don't think it's healthy. And you said it perfectly. Comparison is the thief of joy. You don't want to compare none of your exes to me. You just don't want to do it.
Well, and you don't want that.
Right.
You
I'm
don't
being
want that.
sarcastic, but I'm being serious also.
Right. I am not a clone of whatever else that you navigated. Okay. And I
Right.
truly feel in time, there is room for things to just naturally and
Yeah, absolutely.
organically just come through.
Yep.
And if you are confident within yourself, remember, I am the life and wellness half of this dynamic duo. If you are confident and self-assured with what you know to be your authentic truth, you are not the least bit concerned with the focus.
Right.
And I mean, some people are just want to needle into all the details of what you used to do or who
Right.
you used to be without.
Yeah.
It's doing you a disservice because
It
you're
really
not
is.
allowing that human to be who they are, to show up for you and in this dynamic.
Absolutely. So she's the life and wellness half of this. I'm the financial half. So of course, number 2 is financial matters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's TV commercials about, women dating or people dating, but the woman is like, well, what's his credit score and all that kind of stuff. Like,
they want a high value man.
They want a high value man.
They want 6 everything, 6 feet, 6 figures, 6 series Benz. They want 6 everything.
Yep. 650 plus credit score. Yep. Yep. So, so here's what I'll share with everyone. People who are verbose or people that brag or talk a lot about what they have don't have anything, right? I'm just telling you that from a professional financial consultant experience. Rich people don't go around talking about how much money they have. They don't. It's the people who talk about how much they have who don't have anything. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that I personally, I don't think that talking about finances is appropriate until you get to the point to talk about finances. And that's not anytime soon. I mean, again, you have so many more things to learn. Now, if I have had clients tell me, oh my God, this just popped in my head. I have had clients tell me that on a first date, the guy pulled out a credit card. It didn't go through. So he pulled out another credit card. It didn't go through. And he pulled out another card and didn't have enough on that card. And so, of course, you don't need to discuss finances. You just need not go back on that second date, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying, I'm just saying that person should know what their financial disposition is before they ask you out on a date, especially if they plan on buying. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to let you speak, but since I'm the professional on the financial side, I'm going to say one more thing. I'm traditional, so I'm always paying with dates. I'm always providing. I'm a provider. I'm a male. I'm the guy. I know that may not be acceptable in modern terms, and I know that there's circumstances in relationships where the woman is the breadwinner and the guy, helps with the kids, and I'm cool with that. Mm-hmm. I'm just simply saying that for the most part, you men out there need to step up your game and make sure you're solid before you even ask somebody to consider a relationship. And I promise you, it's the same advice I give my sons. If you're not ready for a girlfriend and all the things that come with a lady or a partner, don't do it. Just sit tight and focus on what you're supposed to be focused on. What's your thoughts? Do you want to know right away, Coach Dawn, what I'm making a year? And I already know you don't, because you've never asked me how much.
I've never asked.
But anyway, what's your thoughts?
When I got to the space of, okay, I am ready for my person. I'm ready for my life partner. I did write a list, and I think I mentioned this in the last podcast. I had a list of the positive attributes that I wanted from my person. And literally, I just wanted that person to be able to be financially stable for themselves.
Right.
Relationships for me, partnership for me means two people coming together, handling their very adult grown-up responsibilities individually.
Right.
Being in partnership is about elevating, enhancing the baseline. We grown. So I have already established a baseline. I am a homeowner. I was in corporate America for 23 years. I am a working person. I am a mother. I'm a community advocate. I came with all of these, identities and experiences before Derek and I came together. And it was just really important as an adult, as a human who is doing their work, to be as whole and as happy and thrive as much as possible, for me to have my shit together. Am I perfect as far as my money? Absolutely not. If you are an entrepreneur, that smack is like this, okay? They're like this. It's like, hold on. And things do vary from year to year. But when you come together, in partnership, am I grateful that I have a man who his core belief is that he's a provider. That's who he is. And he was that dude before he met me. Okay. And that's just
I came out the womb like that.
He came out the womb that human. And so I love that. Was that on my list? It wasn't, because I also understand that relationships can be 80-20, 90-10, 50-50. It does evolve, just depending on, look, we got a cray person that's trying to take everything away from us, especially when you have our complexion. So things do change. And sometimes you have to make some hard decisions. And sometimes one partner's got to do a little more heavy lifting. What does it feel like to you?
Yep. So what about spiritual beliefs? That's next. What do you think? What do you think about, and some people will say spiritual, some people will say religion, you and I like to say spiritual. But what do you think about that when it comes to, transparency and disclosing, what you believe in, and the like?
Well, religion and spirituality, that's excuse me, that can be a deal breaker in some relationships, period. Some people like, no, I want me a church going man of God who sits on the
Wow.
pew and does all the things. He's a leader in the community, and he is a God fearing, God loving, and there's that. Me,
Yeah.
on the other hand, that just wasn't, I want to know what your heart space believes. Okay. And we can be religious. Yes. Do I believe in God? Absolutely. Do I have a relationship with God? Absolutely. And these things were important to kind of talk about early in the burn, because there are things when it comes to being transparent that are absolute deal breakers for a lot of humans. So I feel that the religion virtue versus spirituality is an important part of the transparency conversation
Right.
earlier, rather than later. But spirituality for me is a beautiful individual divine journey
Right.
that encompasses, the whole heart. And I just love that, we show up every day as being the best humans that we can be. We
Mhm.
pray, we meditate, and we come together in a way that is very solid, and is very healing.
Right. I agree with that wholeheartedly. I'm going to take a slightly different approach. I don't think it needs to be discussed, um, at least not anytime soon. And let me share why. When I sit down and speak with anyone, if they're spiritual or religious, it is part of them and their vernacular. If they're saying, woe is me, I don't know what I'm going to do, and life is a bitch, and everything is tough, they're not very spiritual. They can be religious as hell, but trust me, religion is a formalized, organized, like it's not like a sport, but it's formal and organized. Spirituality is that connection with God. So when I talk to you, I can hear
Yeah, that's
your
true.
faith. I can hear your lack of faith. I can hear at what level, and I'm not judging, I'm just saying I can hear at what level you're at. For instance, if I said to Coach Dawn, well, hey, what, if we want to be equally yoked, then we need to do XYZ, take some quiet time every day. Well, if she hears that language just from growing up near the church, that equally yoked is a Bible thing.
Yes.
It's a biblical thing. And for those of you that don't know those things, this is high vibe. If they're low vibe, is God low vibing? No. Is spirituality low vibe? No. So yes, you should talk about it at some point in a new relationship where you could have kids and all those type of things. Obviously, at some point that needs to come up a little bit sooner, because if you're Jewish and they're Pentecostal and you guys will never come see eye to eye, then you need to go ahead and get that out the way. But other than really that, or how are you going to raise your children? I don't think it's a real deep conversation. If I'm talking to you every day, I know if I want you from a spiritual perspective in my universe, in my life, and if we are equally yoked. So
I love that. No, I absolutely, I can flow with that, that as well. It is a feeling when you are tapped in and present, with that human. There are a lot of things that you can just naturally, get to and
right.
feel good about as far as directionally where this relationship could go.
Absolutely.
Now,
And then if you even ask the question, even if you do bring it up, you kind of already know the answer. If you
yeah.
know what I'm saying, if you've done what you just said.
hmm Well, I'd also like to talk about, as we move into more of, the what are we? What are we doing? That conversation in transparency. It's like, where do we take this? What are our long-term plans, in this journey? What do you want out of a relationship? And I feel a lot of these questions like marriage, you know, if you're on the journey of having, you know, wanting to have more children, you know, where are you with, you know, where do we want to live? What type of house do you like? Where, you know, so do we want to live in an area with a great school district? You know, do we want to, when do we start talking about some of these bigger, heavier things that, you know, need to be discussed? And from a woman's perspective, you know, as I hear some of the younger people use the term, well, like, well, what are we? Because we're so in tune with just, okay, as women, like, okay, we don't want to ask too many questions. We don't want to put too much pressure on them. We don't want to come off needy. We don't want to come off aggressive. We don't, you know, it's like, oh my, it's just so much that we're just trying to figure out what these guardrails are. And really, as humans, we just want to know, it's like, okay, are we aligned? Are we vibing at the same pace and going in the same direction? Do we want the same type of like zest and zeal out of life? And so these questions for me, as far as being transparent, look, I want to know. I'm going to tell you, this is what I am ready. This is what I'm ready for now. And I will share a little, you know, little tidbit here from Derek and I. I am married and divorced 2 times. And so I am the partner that, ooh, marriage is like, yeah, that's not the all encompassing for me right now in the beginning of this journey. I want to have a whole beautiful person, a partner for life, a partner to do all the things that my heart has ever desired. And so for me, marriage was definitely not something that I wanted to, you know, jump into right away, or even the conversations about it made me so uncomfortable because that was triggering for me. Have you been married and divorced twice and them exes, you know, that's still out there, and I'm sitting here with this amazing man that like hit all of my things on my list. It's like, to me, it was like marriage is gonna F all that up.
Yeah, I know. We talked about it. It was really weird because you know, we worked together for not quite a year, but you know, close to a year and or 9 months. Then we figured out we were a good team and a good partnership or potential partnership. So we started dating. And man, by 2 or 3 months later, we were going, oh, this is him, this is her, you know, we getting married, you know. And then later it was like, ooh, kind of all, when it really became kind of real and the conversation came up, it was like, ooh, oh, oh, oh. So luckily, now I don't know if it's lucky or not. I just think that you always remind me that you called me into your life. But you know, you had your list, but luckily for me, it wasn't a deal breaker, or it isn't a deal breaker if we do or if we don't. As a provider, I just want you to be happy. I want us to be happy, and I want us to grow, to consistently grow together. So for me, it wasn't a deal breaker. So for most of you, like relationship status, I understand that, you know, there's 2 reasons why people have really, really tough relationships. Let's just say divorce. First one is lack of communication or poor communication. And the second one is financial. So what we're talking about is the communication, like, you know, what are we? And so I do understand that. And what you all need to understand is that you men, is that we don't communicate the same way as women. And sometimes we believe that what we do or what we're, you know, acting out is enough to indicate where we are.
Yes.
And you
right.
and
I see you every day. I talk to you every day. I'm with you all the time. Then it's like what?
Yeah, it's us. So, you know, I do think that it's important to, at some juncture, when you're ready, to at least commit to monogamy. Now, for me personally, I'm worried about my physical health. Like this, I used to say my body is a temple, and I shouldn't say used to. I say it. I don't say it as much as I used to say, but I've been saying this ish since I was 16. Right? Like I can count how many intimate situations I've been in because I never wanted anything to taint this, this temple. And talk about STDs and those type of things. And I know it may be stupid and it's weird, but that's just the way I am. I'm cool with it. But I do think you need to bring that up. Like, are we going to be monogamous? When you get to that point, if you're having intimacy,
absolutely,
that's the point that you should be bringing that up. Okay, is it going to be just you and me?
Absolutely.
Okay. Other than that,
because when we talk about relationship status, babe, it's, there is a difference between dating and, deciding to be in a relationship. And there, I think communicating even when the dating piece, it's like, you know what, I'm going to take some time and maybe not date and or have sex with anyone else so I can completely be open to connecting with you. And I truly believe that it is difficult to do that when you got other energies all in, out, and around.
And that's what people need to understand, is that when you are intimate with someone, you are engaging, and I don't want to say owning, but to a certain degree, owning their energy, right? You don't just have sex and walk away. That person is still, with you. You've just created a intimate act that is ongoing. So for you guys, my suggestion is don't assume. I know you're not going to ask. I know she's going to ask most of the time, but be prepared to be clear with where you are, which means you need to be thinking about it. So as soon as you start having sex, you need to be thinking about, okay, am I going to do this, or am I going to have multiple? And I have friends that have told, anybody that they're intimate with, like, look, you ain't the only one. We're going to have a great time when we're together. When we're together, it's just you. But when we're not together, don't expect too much, And so I'm cool with that as long as you're open and honest. I don't judge people as long as they're clear and both parties are clear. And we have all seen what happens when one person thinks you're monogamous and the other person is out playing around. So we've seen what happens with that. And that could be deadly. And,
and even when you're clear, it's hard to deal with when, you got feelings. It's like, that pings your heart, and it does hurt. Like, okay, yes, we came into this and we just flowing and, just taking it day by day, and whatever happens.
That brings up a good point.
But what does happen is somebody gets attached.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's my question. So you have younger boys than I do. And I've heard them talk about, oh, she's just my homie. I mean, I was like, what does that mean?
My bro.
Oh, my bro.
Oh
yeah.
My gosh.
And, and of course, we're over 50, so we're like, a girl can be a bro? Okay, that's new. A homie? That's new. But what does that mean? And so I remember, you said, okay, is that friends with benefits? What does that mean? Y'all just watch the movies? Y'all go to the gym together? What does that mean? And so I think that there's so much intentional distortion.
Yeah.
That and it doesn't make anything better. So it's not like saying we're homies doesn't mean what Coach Dawn just said. Somebody's still catching feelings at some point. And man, if you're doing it right, they really will catch some feelings. But anyway, at some point, somebody's catching some feelings. So, I think you gotta be really crystal clear. About those things, especially when you're intimate. If you're not intimate, I think you're good. Y'all can take as much time as you need to figure out what you want to do. So,
and that's okay too. Some relationships decide to abstain and take the time to like really establish, a friendship. A loveship, a partnership, a collaborativeship. I mean, and sometimes the sex and the emotional attachment that comes with that can, cloud if you don't have two emotionally intelligent humans that are navigating in a very mature, elevated, high vibing way of wanting this connection to flourish and thrive into the future. And so it definitely is day by day. It's definitely generational, talking about, our young kids and kind of how, they're navigating. And to quite honestly, I'm glad that I'm not that young and navigating in this world. social media and, Instagram models. And we
I mean,
both have,
social
we both
media
have
in
sons.
relationships. What about that? Social
What's that?
media. I mean, oh my God, that's crushed a couple relationships for me, right? How come you don't post me? That means I'm not unimportant to you. I'm
Yeah.
like, look, everybody that knows you, everybody that's supposed to know you exist, no.
Well, I can give you my little tidbit on social media. I personally made a choice that I do not post, my partner in my relationship. It was really important to me for you and I to establish our own personal cadence on who we are and how we navigate, and to really establish a strong foundation that I felt couldn't be broken by outside factors,
Woo,
by
amen
people
and
jumping
amen.
into your DMs, by the distraction of the latest and greatest cute big booty out there and a beautiful smile. So I wanted to make sure that to keep that sacred, because once you put it out there on social media, it's for all eyes and everyone's opinion, and
Everybody's got an opinion.
everybody got something to say. Ooh, girl, you dating somebody that's wearing locks? Ooh, it ain't your bit. This is not your business. The
Yeah,
humans that are in our sphere of influence, they know that we have this amazing partnership, that we bring the people that on a need to know, they absolutely know. But you strangers out there in social media world, in this wide, vast, crazy internet, and there's so much hate and jealousy and divisiveness that happens. And so there's a lot of people who, when they see happiness, when they see you glowing and showing up like all teeth, just like, yes, this is my man. There are people out there that literally triggers them to the point where, they ain't all that. Oh, she's faking the funk. Oh, I saw her having lunch with somebody, and that somebody was a client. There's just so much that
so
can
much.
happen
Yep.
when you bring social media. I mean, look what happened to Will and Jada. It
Yeah,
just ain't your bit. It's just
not your
really
business.
not your business. That's it. That's my 2 cents.
All right. So just in case you all were counting, I said there were six. The sixth one was family dynamics. We kind
Yes.
of discussed family dynamics. The only thing that Coach Dawn mentioned to me about family dynamics that I thought was super cool was that, you need to pay attention. Like Coach Dawn has two brothers, mom and dad that are still living, nieces, nephews, all that kind of, well, not even nieces, but nephews. And, I paid attention, like, not who has influence over her, but who does she gravitate to the most? And she mentioned to me first. She was like, "Hey, when I first met you, your sister, you guys have a great relationship, and I needed to pay attention that, hey, I don't want to piss her off because that, might interfere with us getting started in a proper direction."
Yes.
And so I'll let you, expand on that thought if you need to. But that
Yeah.
was the sixth one. And
Yes.
then we're going to get into some solutions, because we're not here just talking about problems, right? We're not here just talking about problems. We're not here just talking about, what we do. We're talking about these things in terms of how can you elevate to a
Mhm.
high vibe life. So Coach Don, go ahead and expand, and then we're going to jump on the first thing that people need to do to fix some of these issues.
Yes. Well, if you are paying attention and present, and you listen to your person, how they talk about the people that have directly impacted their lives. And yes, his sister Kobe, and I was like, oh, because Derek's parents, are no longer with us. And his sister Kobe is like the matriarch of his family dynamic. And I knew how important it was to make her important to me as well. And literally anyone who you are coming into partnership, pay attention, because whoever they love, you got to make that matter in your day to day. That's got to matter to you. I truly disagree when people say, well, I don't marry their family. Their family
Woo!
isn't important. It's just me and you against the world. I'm like, okay. And maybe that is a thing. And maybe there is some relevance if their family dynamic is toxic and abusive and harmful, then that's different. But if you're paying attention to your person, and your person, just loves, being a parent. They just love, their children, and they just love, how their family gets together. Their family loves to fly and travel and do. So his sister, oh my God, we've been to some amazing
Ooh,
destinations because of his sister Kobe and her love for the community and gathering and feeding us. I mean,
yeah.
that's how
Ooh,
she
yes.
shows love. And
Yeah.
you have to pay attention to how your person, responds to that.
Yeah.
He loves who he loves. You have to decide to make it a priority for that to bring that into your space. And I'll just say one more thing. As a mother of boys, when we first started, it was very important to let him know I am mama first. These boys, are everything to me. And I'm still very much in the rearing of children mode. And Derek was an empty nester. And so he had to understand that, I'm kind of divided in my heart space on where my priorities, have to go from any given moment. But just to let you know, my children are, when we talk about cornerstone, yes, the foundation to everything of pride and joy of who I am as a mother and a Black woman. The boys that I am raising, he needs to know, like, dude, if you gonna be with me, you got to love them too. And it really, and that, when we
Package.
talk about
Package
deal
deal.
breakers and transparency, if
Yeah.
this dude didn't come into this space to embrace my sons, get to know them individually for the amazing humans that they are, on top of where they had challenges and needed love, support, and guidance and nurturing of a strong Black man, I'm going to tell you right now, ladies, you find you one that wants to pour into your children, and you can also watch him love up on his children and love them individually for their individual gifts and passions.
Amen.
That woo, boom, heart. I mean, out of
Yeah.
all the things that we have navigated, that
Yeah.
was one very top thing that made me
That's a
fall
great point. That's a great point.
even more in love with you.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that, but that's a great point. It's incredibly vital, especially in today's world, because most people have kids, if no matter what the situation is. But if you were paying attention, I said we were going to talk about solutions. And Coach Dawn just gave you one of the 4 solutions that we're going to talk about, and that is active listening.
Mm-hmm.
If you are present, right? I'm not talking about you both are sitting there at the table, texting and talking and looking at social media, right? I'm not talking about that. If you're actively listening and engaging, then you have to learn some of these things that don't even need to be questioned, right? If you are actively listening, and active listening is not waiting to talk, it's listening and absorbing what that person is saying, thinking, and feeling, and then you can respond and understand where they're coming from. And you don't have to just actively listen when you're talking to them. How about you're actively listening when they're talking to their mama? If I'm on the phone with my mom, and Coach Dawn already said both my parents are deceased, but if I'm on the phone with my mom and I'm being disrespectful, what should she expect? I mean, Coach Dawn should expect disrespect at some point. That's one of those catch-22s. Like, oh, he's super sweet right now, but man, I heard him talking to his sister or talking to his mother or talking to his aunt or talking to some stranger. And man, he went in for no reason or where he gave no grace. And so anyway, active listening is one of them. Coach Dawn, what's the most important?
For me, look, let me just go ahead and jump in here. You better be doing your work.
There you go.
You better be doing your inner work. You better be on a path. Okay. And I'm not ever saying that you got to have it all figured out. I'm not saying that at all. But it is really important that you, as an individual, whole human man, have an awareness of what your shit is.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And be actively working on that shit. We talked about in the last, podcast where there are a lot of things that triggered Derek that I would do. And my response was, hey, that sounds like a you problem, babe, because, I'm not living in your body. I'm not actually doing this thing to you. You are being triggered by an old wound that maybe somebody else, they did those things to you. So it's so important to have this self-awareness of just who you are and be hyper vigilant in working on those things. And as a couple and being in partnership, we can work on those things together. But yes, is there an individual healing journey? Yes. And then there's a coming together of two whole humans who are also doing their own beautiful inner work together as a couple.
Absolutely. So, this is a perfect time to discuss this. When people, professionals, I won't say people, when professionals talk to people about doing their work, or someone says, are you doing your work, or you're on your journey? I like to say self-mastery. Are you working on yourself? Are you mastering yourself?
Yes.
This is a perfect time to share that is the toughest assignment that will ever be given to you in your entire life.
But it's the best and the most.
By far, it's the best. But what I want you to understand is that it's even though you're working on your journey, you're working on yourself, you're figuring out your self-mastery, there are amazing people in this universe, right? At one point, it was like Oprah Winfrey. Everybody looked to Oprah to help them on their journey, introducing the book, introducing this therapist, but there are impactful one-on-one opportunities. And I'm actually doing a little commercial here for Coach Dawn, who will meet with you one-on-one to lay your journey out. Let's lay it out and let me help you walk through the process of doing the work, because doing the work is so ambiguous when you don't know what the work is.
Or where to start. Yeah,
we know what the work is because, I've been doing it since I was in college. I know you may not believe that. I'm just a weird dude. I've been journaling since college.
I love this weird. You my kind of weird, baby.
I've been meditating since college. My parents were middle class to lower middle class, so I was always concerned about money and being a good provider. So I've been doing this for a really long time, right? But for those of you who haven't, now you're getting serious about making a better life, about having a higher vibe, about elevating. There's some things you got to change, and change is what most people fight against because it's so easy to fall back into the habits. So if you need some financial help to hire a coach like Coach Dawn, see me. If you need that life coaching help and you're already ready to hire that coach, check out Coach Dawn, and all of our links are in the bio. Check us out. Now that leaves two more active things for solutions. We talked about self-mastery. We talked about active listening. Coach Dawn mentioned this, and it should be a given, but be honest. Be honest. I stopped, my first real relationship was the woman I married. And I used to take my phone and turn it upside down, like probably 90% of guys. And it wasn't because I was doing some dirt. It was because no matter who was reaching out to me, she was like, who's that? And like Coach Dawn said, most likely it was a client, male or female. It didn't matter, but it triggered her. She wanted to know. She wanted control. And so I, trying to be a provider, trying to be a protector, it was like, look, let's not even get into this. Put my phone on silent and turn it upside down, and I'm going to ignore it, right? And then I would rush to do emails and do return phone calls and all the things that I could have been doing the whole time, but I was trying to protect somebody who I shouldn't have been protecting. That part of the protection is not my job.
Correct.
So when I say be open and honest, I'm not saying, hey, turn your phone, right side up. I'm just saying that be open and honest at everything. Coach Dawn tells me, look, I get along better with men than women. She met Charles Barkley and all these golf guys and all these different people that were men, and she'd be the only wife hanging out with the guys, watching the game or playing golf or whatever while the women were doing their thing. So she said, this is just who I am. So don't get all in your feelings or something if I have some male friends. No problem, okay? She told me, she was open and honest. I'm doing my work, so I wasn't triggered, all those type of things. And then finally, the final solution that we're going to offer you is to, if you have an issue, just go ahead and put it out there early. I mean, put it out there as reasonably early as you think is necessary. And so sometimes, they're not issues early. Sometimes they come later, but whenever it arises, put on your big girl panties, put on your big boy underpants, say, hey, let's talk. I want to talk to you about blah, 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 and get it out there. I mean, believe me, it's not easy, but it's better than the alternative of letting it stew and simmer.
Oh, yeah.
Create all the other chaos.
Yes.
What do you think? What do you think?
It absolutely it does. When you like anything else, when conflict arises, dealing with it, definitely timeliness of how you address it is so important, to not allow something just to continue to churn and churn, because that's just how we are as humans. We take a thing and we create a story around it, and then we bring other people in to validate how bad we're feeling, and then we get in community, and then we start pointing fingers, and it literally leads us absolutely nowhere. And as humans, we do a lot of creating our own suffering. So if something is bothering you, an action or something your partner said, or maybe the way they use language around, talking about, other relationships or women, or how, they deal with other people, their language. And I'm a language person. I listen to your words. I look at your facial expressions. And so I'm very much in tune with, hey, is that something that is bothering you? Because I've noticed, and I also try and take myself out of conflict at time to make sure, am I being triggered and taking something personally? But no matter what, if there is something going on with your partner and you feel a certain way, talk about it. Use, communication is key. Being honest, again, getting back to being transparent,
Right.
navigating in some of these more challenging, difficult spaces will allow you to grow as a couple. And when we do this work together, especially getting through the hard times, that just makes us stronger and better equipped to deal with the next thing. None of us are promised a path full of gold, okay?
Right.
None of us are promised that. So it is so important for the longevity and to have a high vibing, loving relationship, how you communicate and deal with conflict, taking care of things like immediately, so they don't fester and grow and come out in so many other aspects of who we are.
Right.
We're all human. We all need that safe or courageous place to land. And if you don't feel safe in your relationship, I'm gonna say that's a red flag. If you don't feel like you're able to speak your truth without your partner constantly getting angry or cutting you off, or that's a problem.
Right.
We as women, the emotional creatures that we are, that they say, even though I think men can be just as emotional, but whatever, that can be a whole nother show. Let us know if you're interested in wanting to talk about that.
Absolutely. Let us know.
Our emotions are important, and our emotions and how we feel are valid, and our partner needs to feel that they are valid as well. Valid enough where, okay, babe, let me hear you out, hear your perspective, and, sit with it and see how, you can come back together, see where you went wrong.
What do you think about, I've been to therapy once before, marriage counseling. And one of the first rules, she laid out the rules of engagement in the first meeting. And I really appreciate one of her major rules. And I think it's important even in regular relationships. I want to know what you think. And what she said was, so, we have a hard time communicating our feelings. We have a hard time communicating, period. You know, food, beer, TV,
Sex.
remote, sex. Yes. But we have a hard time communicating anyway. But one of her rules was if we're in a conversation, or let's say you bring something up to me that's serious that you want to talk about, and you lay it out, most likely the person that brings it up is not, it didn't just pop in their head. They've been thinking about this for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So they've already formulated their opinion. They've formulated their position, their thoughts, you know, and now they're just waiting to see what you think, what your position is, so that you can see how aligned you are. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's actually a healthy thing for me to be able to say to you, wow, okay, I know you just brought this up and you want to answer right this second, but can I give me a day to think about this? Because this is it's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got to figure out how to word that, but I definitely want to answer your question, and I don't want to just spew something off. Can we revisit this tomorrow? And the therapist rule was anybody who was in it, if you're in it, it was really about arguing. If you're in an argument or a discussion, for this matter, and somebody wants to call a timeout, they're allowed to call timeout, but they have to call time in within a certain window that you two agree to. In our case, it was 24 hours.
Okay.
I think that that's healthy because some guys will just say something because they know what you want to hear. They may not mean it. They may mean it. They may not. They don't even know if they mean it. And the same thing not the same thing for women, because you guys usually know. But no matter who needs the time to be able to confidently say, that's really solid. It's really valid. Let me wrap my head around it because you just asked me and I haven't given that a whole lot of thought. Now that person may be a little disappointed that you're not on the exact same wavelength, but at the very least, if you're growing together and you start this early, then it's not foreign. And it's a great way for you to have some clarity in things. What do you think about?
100%. I think that is very important and very respectful, especially, you got to know like your person. When do you get the best out of them? And as humans, when we want to engage with a difficult conversation or walking around with a heavy emotion, I feel that get yourself to a more elevated emotion before you even engage in a heavy conversation. If you are pissed off, angry, vengeful, I would say that's not a good time to have an elevated, high vibing conversation.
Right.
Get to a place of at least neutrality. I'm neutral. I feel more calm in my body. He's good. He's not tired. He's not cranky. He's in a good place to now receive, what I'm saying. It is important to be mindful of your tone. Are you standing over him, pointing down? Are you doing the hit, the bit, and yes, we all been there, but to what end is that a productive and elevated way
Absolutely.
to engage? And to quite honestly, you have to be mindful. That's not how you resolve and actually get what you want. Because at the end of the day, as humans, we just want to feel good. We just want to feel seen. We just want to feel understood
and heard.
So, but we've got to honor and come from a place of our own love for ourselves.
Absolutely. I love it. So we have a couple questions for you. We want you to respond. We want you to hit the like button, the subscribe button, the share button, but we also want you to engage with us so that we can all grow together as a community, as a family. And trust me, we are all family. So the first question that I'm going to ask, that I want you to comment in the comments, and this is not to Coach Dawn, this is to you. Do two halves make one whole? So they say, oh, we're two come together and now I'm whole. And Coach Dawn is probably itching to answer this, but we're going to answer it on our next episode from our perspective. But we want to hear from you. Do two halves make a whole? And I do want to ask Coach Dawn, or have her kind of comment. She's already brought it up, so we might as well let her comment on it. She mentioned red flags, triggers, yellow flags, whatever you want to call them. Yeah. And then when we were preparing for this episode, I mentioned the catch 22, or the bait and switch. I kind of mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the very first issue, and that is, somebody puts their best foot forward, but their best foot isn't always the same foot. So they put it forward, and then they flash out and they start showing their real true selves, months down the road. Or some people do it after they get married, or some people do it after they, think they got you locked down. So don't answer the two halves question, Coach Dawn, but what do you think about the other two, the bait and switch and the red flags?
Yeah, and the bait and switch, women would use the language, it's called love bombing. Okay, you're coming in hot. You're doing all the things, just saying everything that you feel that, oh, yeah, she wants to hear this. And you're showing up in a way that you can't sustain, because guess what? It ain't you, bruh.
Yeah.
You're not capable of, maintaining this level of, oh yeah, because that again is not a normal way of showing up as humans. And it's disingenuous on so many levels. We literally just want you to be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Show up as who you are, because yes, are we paying attention? And a lot of people in today's society, they're literally looking for the red flag. They looking for the gotcha. They looking for you. Yep, I knew it the whole time, that blah, blah. And it's just like, can we find a more
elevated space,
more elevated way to navigate in our own truth?
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So if you are consistently looking, I think a red flag is a red flag. So if a red flag's there, I don't think you should ignore it, but I also don't think you should be looking for it. But if somebody is looking for it, do you believe that they still have work to do?
Well, that's called projecting. And so we all mirror. Everyone is a mirror. Okay. Mm-hmm. And the things that we are looking for are things that we have either been called out about, or things that we are still working through and desiring to master. So when those things are heavy in your awareness, and I truly believe in this attraction phase, you will get more of that. You get more of whoever you are right now. And if you are in this space of that gotcha, the bait and switch, and you're going to get and continue to get more of that until you settle in a space of, this is exhausting.
Yeah,
I'm tired of the BS.
But it's not an age thing. It's not
the BS is thing. You. The BS starts with us and what your intentions are. Right. And so really,
what I was saying is that it's not an age thing. So don't think, I'm over 40, so I don't do that anymore. Or I'm too mature for that. We're doing it. So don't disregard it if you're doing that, because that is a valid point. Well, transparency is the glue that holds relationships together, and it's not easy. It's essential though. So you got to go through this process of being transparent, and the first opportunity you have to be transparent is with yourself, telling yourself the truth, and recognizing where you need to improve, doing the work. We want to thank you for joining us for episode 6 of the High Vibe podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, as I asked you earlier. Leave a review. Don't forget to answer that question. Do 2 halves make a whole? And if you want to put some context to it, you're more than happy to do that. Next episode is going to be navigating long-distance relationships. Now, if you don't have a long-distance relationship, you don't have to worry about it, but you're still going to pick up some nuggets. I promise you that much. So join us for our next episode, managing and navigating long-term relationships. Until then, hey, have an amazing week, amazing life, and remember that honesty is the gateway to true intimacy.
Ooh, I love that.
You like that?
I love it. Thank you all for joining, and be well, and stay tuned for the next High Vibing podcast. Be well.
Hey. All right.